Welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I am your host, Alex. Today we're kicking things off with a paper that's been trending called MASLab, a unified and comprehensive codebase for LLM-based multi-agent systems. The key idea here is to solve a major headache in a growing field. Researchers are increasingly using what are called multi-agent systems, which are basically teams of LLMs working together on complex tasks. The problem is, everyone has been building their own systems from scratch, making it really hard to compare methods fairly. This paper introduces MASLab, a single, unified codebase that standardizes everything. And it's great to see they also released the code for this work. The repository is a unified codebase for these LLM-based multi-agent systems. It brings together over 20 different methods, along with the datasets and evaluation rules, so you can run the tests, or what's called inference, yourself. Alright, and this first figure gives a really nice visual overview of what MASLab is all about. You can see it's broken down into a few key areas. It's comprehensive, meaning it includes over 20 of these multi-agent system methods. It's also manually verified, so the authors carefully checked their re-implemented code against the original official code to ensure everything matches. Critically, the whole process is unified. This means the data pre-processing, the LLM configurations, and the evaluation protocols are all standardized. And finally, it's designed to be research-friendly, with a simple structure where each method is basically a Python function, making it easy to use and build upon. So to really appreciate the scope of this project, let's look at this table. It details the 24 different multi-agent system methods that MASLab currently supports. It breaks them down by a few key features, like whether the agents have fixed or dynamic roles, and whether their communication structure, or what the paper calls topology, can change. It also notes if they use external tools, like a code interpreter, and if the method itself can be optimized. You can see a huge variety here, from simpler methods like CAML to more complex ones like MASGPT that have dynamic roles and use tools. This diversity really underscores why a unified testing ground is so crucial for the field. Okay, so this next figure really illustrates how MASLab achieves that unification we were just talking about. On the left, it shows the whole standardized pipeline, from pre-processing the data to running the model to get an answer, which is called inference, and finally to evaluation. Crucially, all methods use the same shared resources, like a common set of LLMs and toolkits for web search or code execution. This shared setup is what ensures a fair comparison. Then on the right, you see how they make it research-friendly. Every method is boiled down to a simple Python class, making it easy to see the core logic of recruiting agents, discussing solutions, and improving the final answer. And this next chart really drives home why that unified evaluation we just mentioned is so critical. Here, we're looking at several multi-agent methods tested on the math benchmark. The key takeaway is how their performance changes drastically across 5 different evaluation protocols, which are essentially just different ways of grading the final answer. Look at the plot on the left. The rankings are all over the place. For example, the paper notes that agent versus accuracy plummeted from almost 80% down to 25%, just by switching the evaluation method. This huge variation really proves the point of the MASLab project. Without a standard way to grade these systems, you can't compare them meaningfully. So beyond just how you measure success, another huge factor is the cost. These next plots show that trade-off with performance on the vertical axis and what's called token cost on the horizontal axis. Token cost is basically a measure of how much text the model has to process, which directly relates to the computational expense. Each of these 4 plots represents a different benchmark, like math or GPQA Diamond. The line shows the average trend, and any method plotted above that line is considered more cost-effective, giving you better performance for a given cost. Alright, so after looking at those cost trade-offs, this table digs into the raw performance numbers. It compares many of these multi-agent methods across a wide range of benchmarks, from math and science to coding. And it does this using 2 different backend models, Llama 3370B Instruct and QN2 572B Instruct. The most striking result is that no single method is the best everywhere. But even more telling is how much the choice of LLM changes the outcome. For instance, with the Llama model, Agentverse beats the single LLM baseline, but with the QN model, it actually performs worse. This dependence on the model really highlights that there's no one-size-fits-all solution yet. Now, moving from those broad benchmarks, this next figure zooms in on a specific application, using these multi-agent systems as AI assistants. The test here is the GIIA benchmark, which has 3 different difficulty levels shown in the 3 plots. And the story is really clear. Giving agents tools is a game changer. The methods that use tools, like OWL role-playing and MASLab React, consistently outperform the others. You can also see this boost gets even more dramatic when you use a stronger model like GPT 4.1, especially on the harder problems. Looking at everything from benchmarks to tools. It's clear the world of multi-agent systems is incredibly complex. The key takeaway is that there's no magic bullet. Performance depends heavily on the task, the model you use, and whether you give the agents tools. This is why a unified codebase like MASLab is so important. It helps researchers make fair comparisons and push the field forward. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening. I'm Alex from the AI Research Roundup.